We're going to continue talking about the power rule and look at some special cases. So far we just looked at polynomials, so all of our exponents have been positive whole numbers, or zero, I guess. But here's a few examples where they aren't, and at least one example where we can't use the power rule on this. But let's start with let's start with the square root of x. Okay, so first thing we need to remember here is is there a way we can write square root of x as x to some power? And remember that we can, so I'm just going to rewrite it. It's x to the 1/2, so remember that. And so we're using this sort of an algebraic rule. We haven't actually done any calculus yet, that the square root of x is the same as x to the exponent 1/2. Okay, but now we can apply the power rule the same way we have been. Remember that it's add 1 to the exponent and then divide by our new thing. So I'm going to add 1 to 1/2. Oops, we don't need this anymore. So I'm going to add 1 to 1/2, so it's x to the 1/2 plus 1, so we need to think about what that should be. And then it's going to be 1 over whatever this number is. So I'm going to wait to do that until after we add these two. And so remember 1/2 plus 1 is 3/2 because we can think of 1 as 2 over 2. So this is x to the 3/2. And the power rule tells us that we should then do 1 over 3/2 as our coefficient. But remember, what we're really talking about here is the multiplicative reciprocal. If we do 1 over a fraction, it just flips the fraction over, and the multiplicative reciprocal of 3/2 is 2/3. So what we end up with is 2/3 x to the 3/2 plus c. Okay, so really the only trick here is remembering that the square root of x can be written as x to the 1/2. So let's look at the next one. So x to the 5/2, same idea. We don't need to change how it's written. We can just go ahead and do the power rule. And we'll leave a question mark here until we figure out what this is. And so it's going to be 1 over, again, this is 2 over 2. So if I add this, it's going to be x to the 7/2 plus c. And then we want 1 over 7/2. But always this just flips the fraction, right? So it's going to be 2/7. Okay. And let's look at one other sort of algebraic move we can make here. So remember that if we have 1 over x to the n, this is equal to x to the negative n. And this is the rule we're going to be using on this example. So that means I can rewrite 1 over x cubed as x to the negative 3. And again, this is just an algebraic move. I haven't done any calculus to this. I haven't taken an integral or anything. But the rule's the same. I have an exponent. I'm going to add 1 to it. And then I have a plus c here. And then whatever my answer is to this will be the bottom of this fraction, 1 over something. And so it's going to be 1 over negative 3 plus 1 is actually negative 2. And so negative 2 goes here. So we could actually clean this up a little bit because this is negative 1/2, and then x to the negative 2 is really 1 over x squared. And so we could write our final answer as negative 1 over 2 x squared plus c. Right, so the thing to remember here, if we have an exponent on the bottom, it's negative on top, and then we can just apply the power rule normally. So here's an example where we can't apply the power rules, but let's try just to see what happens. So we'll say power rule. So this is x to the negative 1, right? Oops, I wrote negative 3 again. This is x to the negative 1. So let's try to do it. So I get 1 over something. It's whatever I'm adding. So add 1 to this plus c. And this gives me x to the 0, which the power rule would tell me I need to put 1 over 0 here now. And this is not a real number. Remember, we can't divide by 0 here using real numbers. So this doesn't work. but just for 1 over x. This is the only time the power rule is going to fail for us. So what do we do instead? So remember, we should already know what this is from calculus. Sorry. So the question is, what function do I take the derivative of to get 1 over x, right? So what is this function? And the answer is the natural log. And so this tells us how to take the antiderivative of this. The antiderivative of 1 over x dx will just be the natural log of x. Absolute value plus c.